Welcome to So Much Fun. I'm Colleen Murphy and I teach sewing. Today we're going to talk about the lap zipper. I do have other videos on the centered zipper and the invisible zipper, but we don't want to overlook the lap zipper. It really isn't used as much, I don't think, as your centered zipper or the invisible zipper, but it does have applications where it is the good choice. So let's get started. When would you use a lap zipper? You would use the lap zipper for the left side of a garment. If you want your zipper to be at the left, lap zipper is the way to go, not centered for sure. And another application could be the center back of a garment if your zipper is, let's say, a different color. Like in this case, it's definitely black and you don't want that to be seen. Then the lap zipper is good for that too. So sometimes, we just don't have the right color. Well, then instead of doing the centered zipper in the center back, you could do the lap zipper. And I have also seen them on pillows as well. So the lap zipper, if you look at it, the stitching, you only see it on one side, not on both sides like your centered zipper. When you're cutting out your fabric prior to putting in the zipper, notice that the area where the zipper is going to be, it extends a 1/2 of an inch from the cutting line on your pattern. Instead of it being all one continuous edge, I prefer that there be an extra 1/2 of an inch just for the area of the zipper. This application really does need that extra 1/2 inch. Sometimes it's just too close if you just follow the same cutting line for the remainder of the fabric. So again, I have placed fusible interfacing like I do for my other zippers. I have that on there. Now, here's the other side when we're talking about it. And I'm pointing out the same. This is your extra 1/2 inch right here. And that this will be your seam line, 5/8 of an inch. That is your normal seam allowance for garments. And notice that I have written on here the space below the zipper. You're going to use your standard seam length. In this case, I like to use 3. And then where the zipper is going, you're going to use a basting stitch, which is the longest stitch setting on your machine, which can be usually either 5 or 6. I've made note that when you're sewing your seam line, you're going to reverse at the beginning. Then you're going to reverse when you get to the point where the zipper is going to be. And then you also reverse at the very top edge because basting stitches come out easily. Press your seam open. Then you're going to need to use a zipper foot. For just sewing your seam together, you're just using the general purpose foot. But now you're at a point where you're going to need the zipper foot. You're going to baste the zipper to the fabric on the right hand side. So if I turn this around, the words are upside down to you, but this is considered the right side of the zipper. So the zipper is face down and you're basting only on the right side. And that is just to the seam allowance. So if you've watched my centered zipper video, you know we do that just to the seam allowance. You are not sewing it all the way through. So you'll have your fabric placed like this, and you're starting at the bottom and going all the way to the top, just on the right side. Basting stitch length. That's your first step. After you've done that, then you're going to flip this over like that. Again, you're going to sew from the bottom to the top, and you have a very narrow area of where you're stitching. So that's why that zipper foot is so important. But this time, you're sewing through everything, but you've got it folded over, and so you're only sewing on the right side of the zipper, and there's a very narrow space there, and you've got that fabric folded to be right next to your zipper coil. And then the last step, we're going to go to the sewing machine to demonstrate it. So that's what we have here. Already have done the first 2 steps. I basted it on the right hand side. I have opened it up. I'll open it up again here so you can see that we turn this over. There are the stitches right along where the coil, or right along where the zipper teeth are. And now we're ready to do the last step. Now, again, I'm going to do it a different method than what you'll read in your books. You're going to find out that they tell you to hand baste. And I have tried that. And I have tried using tape, putting tape along here. And of course, the students have a problem sometimes of sewing a straight line. And it's kind of difficult if you don't have something to follow, an edge to follow. So what we're going to do, we are going to do it from the reverse side. And that way we've got our guide for us. So let's go over to the sewing machine and I'm going to show you how that works. Before I begin, I want from the front side of the fabric, to find that center seam, where that is, so I know where I start, because I'm going to be sewing on the underneath side, not on the top side. And I put a little mark here with pencil. I don't need very much. So the beginning of the stitch that goes across the bottom of the zipper will begin here. And then I'm going to space it just a little bit below that because of this metal, because of the metal at the bottom of the zipper. So another thing I did prior to starting is I measured the distance from the center of the coil, or from the center of the zipper teeth to this edge. And I'm going to plan on stitching about halfway of this width. So first we're going to position it where we know the seam line is, and so first we want to position it so we'll be starting at the seam line, and we're going to come forward, and that secured it. So I'm just going to continue on across, and I want it to be about halfway, but the width of the zipper tape. Now I'm going to turn, right, and we're just going to, I can see where I can follow a guide here. All of the references that I have read tell you to sew from the right side of the fabric. So this is a different approach, entirely different. And you could, if you wanted to, use a glue stick to kind of hold it down a little bit. And we're going forward. I'm not going very far with that. And let's cut it. And let's see what we get on the front side. Well, I think that's pretty straight. And I am over a couple of stitches, so that would have to be fixed. But keep in mind, we're talking about using thread color that's the same or matching with your fabric itself. So really, I'm satisfied with that. You know, if people can have different opinions up here at the top, I think it's okay. It might be a little bit out from there, but not that much. And so the last thing you have left to do is to take your basting stitches out here, along here. You're not removing these stitches. So you're doing it from the front side of the zipper, and you'll take them out right along there. So here is another example of the lap zipper with the basting stitches removed. And you can see I did this earlier, and I only sewed it one time, and I'm pretty satisfied with how the stitches are straight. And we'll look on the back, and you can see it at that point. And so you can try it that way, or if you would prefer to do a row of hand basting stitches along here before you do the machine stitches, I think with a lap zipper, this is a something that people stay away from because they don't have the confidence to get a nice straight stitching line on the last step of doing a lap zipper. But it may take some practice, but this is just my suggestion, and you can read other books and find different ways that they recommend. Most of them are telling you to hand baste, and whenever I say hand baste to people, they roll their eyes and say, is there any other way we can do this? So it's up to you whether you want to do that or try my method. And I've had great success with this method. Again, I hope this video has been helpful for you and that you'll take that leap and do a lap zipper. Don't forget to subscribe and have so much fun.